Hey y'all, Zach McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates, and this is my King County real estate market update for October 2025. Happy fall, y'all. This is the beginning of the fall season, the last push. We've been talking about this for a while, the last push for new listings in the Seattle area. And this month, as expected, we saw more new listings come on the market than we did previously. In fact, we saw more than 600 new listings in September versus August last month. And the year over year number, 18.4% more new listings, more than 400 new listings if we look at the year over year number. So quite a bit more than we saw last year. We saw about the same amount of new listings in August as we did the year before, but we did see quite a big uptick here in 2025. And something that we've been talking about for a while, if you follow along on the weekly videos, and if you don't, you should. We've been talking about how the listing inventory has been picking up here in September. And so seeing what I would expect to see is these big jumps. Now, the good news for the market is that the pending sales also picked up significantly. We had almost 150 new pending sales more than the previous month. We also saw an uptick year over year of 10%, not quite keeping up with the amount of new listings. So the inventory did increase slightly in King County to the tune of 2.8 months of supply versus the 2.7 months of supply that we saw at the end of last month, which is about 160 new listings or so, give or take. And so we did see the inventory increasing in King County very slightly in September, which would be expected given that September is usually when we start to see that last push for listing inventory. What's going to start changing, though, is we're going to start to see fewer and fewer houses coming on the market. October will still have a decent amount. November and December are going to be very, very quiet for new listings, which means for buyers, this is the most listings you're going to see until probably next spring. So this is, if you are somebody that wants to buy, your most opportunity, right? Your biggest selection of houses. Of course, there will be different houses coming on the market later in the year or early next year, but you will not see this amount of supply unless something crazy happens until probably next summer would be my guess, after the spring push and the market starts to turn, as this amount of inventory, 2.8 months, is rare outside of the summer and early fall months. Now, what's going on with prices right now? In King County, houses sold at $975 as the median, which is 2.1% up year over year. So not a huge difference in the median sales price year over year. The average sales price in King County, $1,255,000. A big number, right? Quite a bit bigger than that median. So that just tells us that there are places in King County that are a lot more expensive, and then there are places that are quite a bit more affordable. And King County is huge. So you've got places closer into the city, closer into Seattle, closer into Bellevue that are going to be pushing up those numbers, and particularly on the east side, where you're going to see those numbers well above that 1.2 number. And then you're going to see places on the south end where the prices are going to be a lot closer to the lower end of that, and even significantly below that 975 number, and even some places in Shoreline on the north end. Right. But the average price, 2.4% up as well. So pretty close to the change in the median and the average price. Days on market, 31 in King County. Last month, we were at 28 days on market. Again, we're just seeing some of the last bit of opportunity for seeing listings sitting on the market. Things are going to start shifting here as we're now heading into a season where there's not as much coming on the market, and there will be less and less selection as time goes on. Now, the big number I want us to keep paying attention to, right? We're going to keep paying attention to this inventory number. And we've been talking about it a lot this year. I think it's important for us to note that with this amount of inventory, 2.8 months in King County, we're on the edge of a balanced market, nearing a buyer's market. We've not ultimately hit that number this year where we saw a buyer's market in King County. Given that we're already starting to head into the fall, I don't think we're going to be hitting that buyer's market. But I do think right now we have a more balanced market in King County, which means there's a little bit of give and take in negotiations between buyers and sellers. We talk about that on a weekly basis with the pending data that we get to take a look at. And every single week, we're looking at what's coming on and off the market in King County. We also do that for Snohomish County in those updates. But what we're seeing, right, is just a little bit of an uptick in the competition recently in the market, and that's only going to increase as we head into the winter and the spring when the inventory gets smaller. Just think of less options, the same amount of people, and you have more competition for the options that are available. So as we're wrapping up 2025, I would predict that we're going to start to see this amount of inventory continue dwindling. I think the days on market, there's going to be some opportunities, right, for houses that have not sold yet and have taken a little bit more time. Maybe that's the price. Maybe there's something interesting about the house, and maybe it's just something that can be changed, right? Certain things about a house are changeable. Some things are not. So as a buyer, those are things to look for because there are some great houses that have a few things that need to be tweaked and would make them amazing houses. And they might be things that you can change versus some things that you can't change. So my parting thoughts here, the housing market is slowly picking up as we head into the rest of the fall and the winter. I think there's opportunities for buyers in the market right now. And I think sellers, this is your golden window if you don't need to get your house in the market to start getting it ready for the market. And if you have questions about buying or selling here in King County, I'd love to be a resource for you. Number one, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And if you have questions about your situation personally, I'd love to connect.